You've mentioned many times in the class your writing group that you
Yes.
work with often.
Mm-hmm.
What is the process for you while you're writing a book? Who else reads it? What type of feedback are you looking for?
Usually it's sent to my writing group, and it's the type of feedback I talked about in the writing group's time when first week. I want reader response. Where are they bored? Where are they excited? Where are they confused?
So no one outside your reading group then really reads it?
Not really. My wife's in my reading group. My editor doesn't want to see it usually till it's done. Same with my agent. So, and then when it's done, I'll send it to betas, which are people who read the whole book and give feedback rather than chapter by chapter.
And who are those people to you?
Friends. Sometimes some of the hardcore fans. You had a question before I didn't get to.
So you were saying that in a day's writing you're at, say, 3,500 words.
Mm-hmm.
How much time do you then spend later just to estimate on editing that?
Usually editing is about an equal amount of time to writing for me on a given story. Meaning editing a chapter doesn't take as long as writing it, but editing it the 3 or 4 times of solid edits it's going to need is going to be about an equivalent time. I at least budget that. I can also edit more in a long stream than I can. For instance, that 12 hours, there's 4 hours in there of not writing, probably. Editing, I can do the 12 hours straight through. It's not drawing from a well. As what does Howard call it? Chopping wood and hauling water. It's the stuff that just you can keep doing. For me, that's what the editing is. And so if you add this up, my 3,500 words, I'm usually actually only writing these days about 6 months of the year. Let's see, what would 3,500 times, let's see, someone pull out a calculator. 3,500 words times 5 days a week, because as much as I like to do it 6, I rarely get to 6. So what is that? Come on, calculators, you have computers. Who's got the computer? I need this on a computer because we're gonna multiply it.
1750.
Okay, and now that's a week. Now times that by 26. 455,000. So that sounds about right. If you look at my writing career, we're at about 450. So that's like an epic fantasy and a shorter book every year. It's about what I do, and then a couple of novellas. And about half my time is spent editing, and I'm hitting around 500,000 words, a little under a year, probably is a good average.
Sorry. Have you ever scrapped a book?
Yep, I have.
Why would you do that? And what would you do?
Lots of these, and I'm not excited about it anymore. I wouldn't suggest you do that very often as a new writer. The first book I scrapped was book number 9. And it was these. I had these and I wasn't excited about the book. The second book I scrapped was number 17 or 18. These problems again. I know enough of my process now to know when I'm just not excited about a book, and it's better to just let it go back into the wood chipper, all the ideas come out, and maybe I'll reuse them later. Book number 9 that I scrapped eventually became Warbreaker when I started over from scratch. I took the good parts of it, and if you read the annotations for Warbreaker, I'll tell you which parts were good and which parts I tossed away. And yeah, one character ended up in Way of Kings. Yeah, Teft, who's Kaladin's buddy. He was originally in book number 9, Mythwalker. Yeah.
I know that on your blog you have a section for pre-writing, which is different and distinct from your first draft. What is pre-writing?
All the stuff that I've, the outline, the big outline and all that stuff. It's more extensive for something like Way of Kings because I have certain goals in the Stormlight of stuff I need to improve in the wiki before this book will have, like I need to get all the cultures down, or, there's holes in my personal wiki. That's not something you have to worry about so much. It's because I'm writing a 10-book series of 300,000 word plus books that I need to have everything consistent in my internal wiki.
When you're writing, how do you save your formats? I mean, do you do chapter, scenes?
I just do a chapter, and then I save it in a chapter, whatever, by the character title usually. So I just finished last night, Shalon 3-7. That's section 3, chapter 7 of Shalon's viewpoint. Then I go and I add that to the full file, which is right now called Words of Radiance 0.02 or whatever. It's not finished, so 0.2. And then I save that, and they both go to Dropbox. which is my, rather the old days of now, then I email it to myself on Gmail, which was my thing first for my backup. And then before that, the save it to 3 disks or whatever, the old days of the atrocious need to now I just save it and it goes to Dropbox. And when it goes to Dropbox, that means that it's then going to go to the other computer. That's the office computer. It's going to go to my assistant's computer. It's going to go to my wife's computer because they're all synced to Dropbox. And so magically, suddenly we have this on the cloud and in 4 places with the click of one button. I don't know why I took so long to start using Dropbox. It is so nice to just never have to worry. It's interesting because my computer now is a dummy terminal, right? Like I've just moved everything onto that. I could take my laptop and throw it out the window, go walk to Best Buy, buy a new one, push one button, and an hour later it would be basically completely replicated, which is so nice as someone who makes a living off of that thing. So I would strongly suggest some sort of cloud service like that, whether it be Mozy, they have a very nice service, or it be Dropbox, or whether it be Google's new one, Google Drive. Use something like that and take advantage of it and have 2 computers that sync to it automatically, and you'll never have to worry about backups.
Well, you mentioned earlier sometimes you just discard certain ideas because you weren't excited about them anymore.
Yeah, persistently not excited. Not a couple of days worth, but a couple of weeks worth of it just not, and having lots of fundamental problems. Then it's going to be, I would have to rewrite this book so much that I should just scrap it and start with a new one.
Are there methods you discover you're just really excited about them, especially if it's supposed to be I don't know, maybe a sequel for one of your trilogies you've done or something?
No, I just don't let myself not be excited about them. Everything I've scrapped has been a side project. I don't, at some points you just have to say, if a major book isn't working, you can't scrap. You can't just dump it. You then say, I have to put all of this work into fixing it. You have a contract. That's what you do. Yeah.
I recall you saying in LTUE that Mistborn 2 was very difficult.
Yes, it was.
What was that?
I'd never written a sequel before. I wrote a sequel. I'd never written one before, and I wrote one.
Okay.
You're just going to have to do these things on your own. These sorts of things are too personal to the writer, meaning what I say is not going to, you have to do it. You have to do it yourself. Okay?
Okay.
All right. We're going to do this question, then we're going to let you go to writing groups.
How do you get from being bored with your story?
Realize that almost all authors will get bored with the story. Dan, we share the story on Writing Excuses a lot of Neil Gaiman, who once called his agent at 75% mark through his book and said, this book is awful. It's the worst book I've ever written. And his agent laughed at him and said, you do that on every book. Do you realize this? And he hadn't realized that at 75% point, he always hates his book. You will get to points where you are bored with your book. Doing this for your scenes is one way to make sure that you're not. Realizing that that this is work and it is a slog. What you can confirm to yourself is by going back to a few chapters you've written before and reading them, you should say, wow, those are better than I remember, or that's actually really readable and kind of interesting. And that if you're able to do that, then the book is probably still going all right. You just need to push through that middle part, make sure you're making each scene as exciting as you can and doing interesting things. And then maybe in the end, once you're done with your book, you'll need to cut it by 15%, but that does happen to a lot of us. And being able to see the reason for this is, and I'm glad you asked that question, is I can't look at you and tell you when it's this or when you're just in the normal, I've been working on this book for a year and a half and I really want to be done with it. And I can't tell the difference between those two for you. So for most of you, that's why you should just pretend it's this one and finish the book anyway until you've got the instincts later on that'll tell you when it's one of these. All right? Okay, guys, we'll do this again next week with more questions.